to Functional Yoga Medicine podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I felt it was very important for me to talk about whether you are actually disempowering your patients or empowering your patients. Because as healthcare practitioners, I think we can sometimes mislead our patients in being responsible. There's a fine line, being responsible versus really providing them with the hope, but providing them hope, not reasonable hope. And so we always walk a fine line, understanding the knowledge-based and the theoretical understanding to what is potentially possible for them in terms of miraculous healing that can potentially happen. With keeping those things in mind, I'd like you to sort of open yourself up to my personal experience and how it's impacted me as a human being, first and foremost. And I really see the need for us to go in the direction of empowerment, self-empowerment, and us becoming empowering health mentors versus disempowering practitioners. Because I think we inadvertently, subconsciously go towards disempowerment because we think we know so much. We don't want to disappoint the patients, while having realistic expectations are important. Letting them understand that they're in charge, that this is their vehicle and this is their faculties that they have absolute mastery over is what we're teaching them, and that the possibilities of healing are always there for them is something that we want to remind them of, no matter what the labs or tangible results look like. So let me share with you my story. If you've been following me for the month of December, it was a really hard month for me because over the couple of months, probably since about July, started really about July. By about October, things were kind of not feeling good. I was constantly tired and something was always feeling broken in my body. Like I wasn't fully functional. I wasn't able to do all the things that I used to do. The energy didn't come forth. And I was developing anemia, and there were just some strange things that were happening that were unusual for me. So in December, think about me being devastated, okay? Devastation was an understatement when I found myself with serious acute kidney failure as my body was silently trying to hold on to whatever it was trying to hold on to. I've never felt this polarizing effect. I don't know how to describe it other than to say it was polarizing effect of my body, where my mind was trying to heal its way out, but my body was failing so fast that my mind didn't have a chance, right? And all my life, despite my autoimmunity, the medications, even pregnancy and postpartum, my body always pulled through for me, but not this time. This time it was like being a stickler, and I just couldn't understand. So my psychology and my emotions were wearing thin, and I was losing patience. I swelled up 20 pounds within a couple of days with high blood pressure out of control on my tiny frame. And it was giving me throbbing headaches. That was, I was carrying enough water weight to keep me debilitated and weak. And when your kidneys fail and you have a lot of protein that's being spilled out, you're being malnourished, but you're gaining weight fast because your body can't get rid of the water. It's stuck between interstitial fluid. Your cells are dehydrated, but you're not getting, you have enough hydration that's holding on in your interstitial space, which is in just underneath the subdermis, right? Like under the skin. So you can see the water just under my skin. And it was just so heavy and difficult to move. More importantly, I knew that toxins were building up in my body, and the effect of that was unbearable because I couldn't move. But my body was not responding to even the heavy meds that were infused into my veins when I was in the hospital. It puzzled my doctors. It puzzled me. And on top of that, they had to do a kidney biopsy. And when they did the kidney biopsy, the side effect was a big, huge hematoma, which really stopped my digestive motility, like once and for all. Like I was so constipated. It was the worst thing ever. I felt like I was 4 months or even 5 months pregnant the whole way through. And I've never felt that way. The atmosphere also in the hospital was at its worst. While I'm no stranger to being in the hospital, but this time it didn't feel very safe to me. In the midst of this pandemic, you have to realize many practices, private medical practices, were being bought out by the hospital. At least it was the case near me. And my nephrologist office was going through a revival post-pandemic. And my favorite nephrologist lost many of his partners, which meant he was overworked and super tired. And at this time when I was hospitalized, he had hired on a couple of new partners into his practice. So it wasn't him seeing me in the hospital, or I wasn't being overseen by him, but his new partners in the practice were overseeing me. They had no idea who I was. They didn't even care who I was. They cared about what I had, right? What was going on to my kidneys. I was just another case for them. And that was the difference that I want to talk to you about. And due to my kidney failure being due to my lupus, I had to be treated accordingly, which meant heavy duty chemo and high dose of corticosteroids to knock out the inflammation. And I wasn't feeling any better. And as a healthy yogi with no medical issues and really touting wellness and health, and it was keeping me from doing everything I ever needed to do. And this debilitation was a wake-up call because it kept me from living my life. Because this has been silently going on progressively since March of 2021. I've been struggling with worsening fatigue to a point of exhaustion. After hot yoga, I would be completely, exhausted to a point where I needed naps every day. I had mysterious aches and pains that kept me from living my normal life. And this was completely unusual, as I was always able to recover quickly from my healthy state or to my healthy state, but not this time. One thing led to another, and I kept having these symptoms till finally where my nephrologist said, we've got to get you in. Your creatinine counts were creeping up and something seems a little off. So there I was in the hospital, feeling confused, anxious, and sick, wondering when I would get better. And I had multiple specialists pay visit to me which included my cardiologist, nephrologist, hematologist, gastroenterologist, and an internal medicine doctor to oversee my care. And as my kidney failure progressed and it wasn't getting any better with my hematoma, my main specialist was the nephrologist, because since my normal nephrologist was out of town, the two new nephrologists whom I just met from the practice were following me in the hospital. And I will never forget the way one of them made me feel. He made me feel so belittled. He spoke to me as if I were a disease rather than a person. And his interactions with me made me feel less than like a person. It really was really, really sad for me to really experience this. And I was really puzzled at what was going on because I'm not used to being heard. And this person clearly didn't hear me. He was just so full of his knowledge and theoretical understanding of what he thought it meant, dictating the prognosis. And when I asked about the next steps, he asked me, what do I want to do? I'm not the nephrologist. And it was just a real, I don't know, it almost felt like an ego battle with me, because he wanted to be right. And he wanted to prove me wrong, which was completely unnecessary, because I was in this sick state of mind. And all I wanted was hope, some compassion, and just to let me know that things are going to turn around and it's going to be okay. That's all I needed to really hear. But he didn't do any of those things. He thought it would mislead me. He thought that was not, I don't know what he thought, but it just made me feel really, really bad. And as vulnerable as I was, I needed the support. I needed his hope. I needed the compassion and sensitivity, but I was not getting that from him. In fact, I was met with a harsh truth that I was expected to accept and understand. And he didn't understand why I was so emotional. When asked about my condition, I sensed his frustration as I questioned my poor response. and what all the values of the labs meant, because I became very, very obsessive about what it all meant and what I can expect and why I wasn't feeling so good. And he, in fact, even went as far as to tell me that I would never get better and that my kidney failure is really serious. While there's a lot of unknowns, but probably it would never recover, is pretty much what he said, right? And this was hard to understand and accept for somebody who had always fought and won the battle with the most impossible, grueling conditions with my relapses in the past with my lupus, because this wasn't my first ride on this rodeo. And I have to tell you, my internal medical doctor came in. We had a human to human interaction where he leveled with me. It's a different doctor, and really talked about the clinical aspects of it from what I understood with my lab values and what it meant for the health and outcome of my kidneys and acute kidney failure. We all know that acute kidney failure can bounce right back. And he could have given me that hope and given me a lot more so that I can hold on mentally. But he just had no idea on how to do those things. But this internal medical doctor better explained my situation and provided me with some hope for my case. And I was able to really boost my mood. And that's all I ever wanted, was a chance to feel better and return back to normal. But I didn't want my doctor to tell me what my future would look like, as he didn't have the full understanding of my condition, how my condition would play out. This is when I realized the importance of our role as practitioners to empower our patients by understanding really their emotional and mental needs that they have at that moment versus holding on to our ego and really understanding or trying to prove something to them and doing something dutifully to provide them with whatever we were taught to provide, right? It meant everything to me at that moment to have that ounce of hope to hold me along while my body recovered, because my mind wanted this positive affirmation. My body was feeling horrible. So I just wanted to bear the question to you today is, are you actually empowering to your patients, or are you subconsciously disempowering your patients? Because how you show up for your patients matters. And I know while some patients can be unruly and difficult, but understand that from a place of being anxious, that's all that comes out, all the emotions and all the insecurities, vulnerabilities that they didn't expect that they have, that might all spill out of them in that moment where they're completely falling apart, right? And so you have to understand where they're coming from. And for those of you who are in the yoga or wellness or nutrition business, where it's like they're far further along, a lot of the patients now have skepticism about the experts because you guys don't really understand the ladders or the experience of being sick, right? Or if you do, you really need to go to that space and show some sensitivity and, ask yourself, are you full of self-importance and more concerned about getting through your day? Or are you really present for your patients who are struggling with their own health to provide them with impact and positive influence that you are there to provide? Because as healthcare practitioners, I understand the overwhelming requirements and expectations of patient care. There's a lot of bureaucracy. I understand that. However, I believe we're in the business of empowering our patients to be the healthiest versions of themselves versus treating them for their condition as we were taught in school. So I really, really want you to sit and mull over what I said and challenge you to think about the impact and the influence over your patients, especially those who are going through some tough life situations right now. And that's pretty much everybody. We all deserve a little compassion and understanding, especially when trying to heal from it. So on this new path, the new generation of healthcare practitioners, and that's our vision for the Alkaline Method Academy, is to really change the healthcare and the trajectory of it for future generations to provide, really well-trained, compassionate, self or health empowering mentors versus really disempowering practitioners that think that we should theoretically understand everything and base our knowledge and understanding on something so tangible and really treat the patient like you would based on the labs versus treating the patient who's in front of you as a human being. And I think that differentiation is super important. And I think when we can meet our knowledge with intuition and understand our intellect is not everything, that our sensitivity and our emotional intelligence and compassion that we bring to the mix is what really heals our patients to be self-empowered to heal. And that's really our role, is not of self-importance and ego where we boost our ego up to say we're the healers, because we're not the healers. Only the patients themselves can be self-empowered to heal. And then that makes our role so much easier to be empowering health mentors that we need to be for our patients so that we can guide them to a better place. And that's always should be our goal, because our influence and the impact we have over our patients cannot be understated. Please understand the importance of that, whether you're teaching yoga or wellness, nutrition, or you're a healthcare practitioner in functional medical space, whatever the case may be. Disregard all that you know. You really need to understand that we're building human beings from the ground up to be self-empowered to heal, because nobody else knows your body more than you do. And unless we can elicit their enrollment in their own care, nothing else happens. Really, that's all I wanted to say for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. And please check out our new website, functionalyogamedicine.com, alkalinemethodacademy.com, for new online programs. And we have both services for practitioners who are wanting to integrate all the things to have a powerful impact on autoimmunity and chronic inflammatory conditions, as well as to provide care for autoimmune patients as well, because that's what I am and that's what I do. And that's why we have these podcasts and episodes available for you. Thank you for taking your time to listen, and really remember to challenge yourself next time you have a patient in front of you. Please regard them as a human being that they are. Thank you.